you're a frequent user of services like Facebook, Uber, Amazon, and you're noticing that things online are getting worse, you're not imagining it. It's a phenomenon explored by Canadian author and journalist Cory Doctorow in his latest work looking at why everything suddenly got worse and, of course, what we could do about it. And we are so lucky because he joins us on the show this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It's nice to be here.
So great to have you. Tell us a little bit about your book, because research that you have shows that things are just getting worse on the internet, and I think a lot of us are feeling it.
Sure. So I've worked for a nonprofit in the United States called the Electronic Frontier Foundation for about 25 years. And for 25 years, we've watched bad tech policies that reward companies for getting worse, and we've watched the companies get worse.
Okay.
A good example might be Google, which was allowed to be a serial acquirer. They bought many of their direct competitors. They were able to maintain dominance in that way. They were able to, for example, bribe Apple $20 billion a year not to enter the search market. And then what we discovered during last year's antitrust trial in the United States is that in 2019, Google decided to goose its revenue growth by making the search worse. So you'd have to search more than once to get your result, and they could show you ads over and over and over again.
Oh, is there anything online that hasn't gotten worse or has kind of avoided this decline?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a great fan of Wikipedia and the Internet Archive, all these things you might call the public good internet. But these are mostly structured as nonprofits, and also very importantly, I think in the case of Wikipedia, it's effectively a workers' cooperative. Jimmy Wales, the founder, he really, to his credit, woke up one day and said, this is too important for me to run on my own. And he allowed the most prolific editors to form a committee that have the ultimate oversight on the content on Wikipedia. And he has routinely denied his suggested edits and policy prescriptions by this committee, because he understands that being smart enough to found Wikipedia doesn't mean that you're infallible and will always know what's best for Wikipedia.
Your book also covers a lot of U.S. policy. Are there any Canadian policies that you think should be enacted or should be in place?
Well, you know, it's funny because U.S. policy is Canadian policy, because for 25 years, the American Trade Representative used the threat of tariffs to get Canada to mirror America's tech laws. The most ridiculous example of this is a law called Bill C-11, the Copyright Modernization Act, which was rammed through by two of Harper's ministers, Tony Clement and James Moore, in 2012, and it establishes a crime for changing how a technology that you own works, even if you don't violate someone's copyright. So for example, if you have an iPhone and you want to use someone else's app store, you can't modify your iPhone to take someone else's app store. If you have a printer and you want to use generic ink, you can't change the printer so it accepts generic ink. And what's amazing here is that the printer companies know it, and the cartel of 4 inkjet companies that run the industry, they've raised the price of ink. Ink is now $10,000 a gallon. It's the most expensive fluid you can buy as a civilian without getting a permit. It would be cheaper to print out this card full of notes using the semen of a Kentucky Derby winning stallion.
That's
right?
wild.
Now, Canada could have that business. We could be making the tools that allow everyone in the world to jailbreak their printers and install generic ink. That's a multi-billion-dollar business. However, because we passed this law, the Copyright Modernization Act, voluntarily prohibiting our own tech companies from making this otherwise lawful product, in exchange for a promise of not having to have tariffs when we ship our goods to America, we are now in this circumstance where we're eschewing this revenue and Canadians are getting ripped off. So, you know, when someone threatens to burn your house down, unless you do as they say, and then they burn your house down, you don't have to keep doing what they say. You know, happy Liberation Day. Trump has opened up the space, ironically, for us to stop following the American lead in our tech policy.
Your book does end on a very positive note. Hope for the online world.
Yeah, well, you know, we have seen in the last 7 years an enormous upwelling of fury and political action against corporate concentration and the power of oligarchs. And we see it wherever we look. You know, Canada has historically had the weakest competition regulator in the world. It was a joke. The Competition Bureau, in its history, had only challenged 3 mergers, but that's okay, because it never succeeded in challenging a merger, including the merger that created CTV Bell, right? And reduced the opportunities for people like you to find work. If you lose this job, you've got a lot fewer employers you can go to now, and reduce the opportunities for Canadians to get diverse points of view. And in 2024, Justin Trudeau, was hardly a paragon of anti-corporate action, whipped his caucus to give our Competition Bureau the most sweeping powers of any competition regulator in the world. And that's not because he wanted to do it. It's because Canadians, like everyone in the world, are fed up with living in a country that's 3 monopolists in a trench coat.
And where could people find your book, Cory?
So my book's published by one of the big 5 publishers, Macmillan. It's distributed here in Canada by Raincoast. You can buy it at every great Canadian bookstore. It's a Heather's pick at Indigo. Independent bookstores have been very good about carrying it. It's in its 11th week of publication and in its 10th printing. So if you can find a copy, you can get it.
Congratulations,
Well,
and thank you so
very
much for joining us today. We appreciate it.